You're listening to the Biz Babes with Soul podcast with your host, Melody Spencer, a show where female entrepreneurs get radically honest about life and business. Today's episode is sponsored by Swiftly Social Digital Marketing. Swiftly Social helps people create a heart-centered digital marketing and Facebook ads strategy that gets you results. For a free video tutorial on how to grow your Facebook following by 10,000 or more, visit swiftlysocial.com.
Hey guys, welcome to the Biz Babes with Soul podcast. I'm your host, Melody Spencer, and I'm so excited to have Pamela Hilliard Owens here today. She is CEO and founder of an amazing business that's all about creating a brand and a business that you love. So welcome, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Melody, for having me on.
Yeah, so tell all of the listeners who may not be familiar with you yet, who you are and what you do.
Okay, thank you. Well, I am located in Detroit, Michigan, born and raised, and I just celebrated last Saturday, July 7th of 2018, my 10th year in business as a freelance business owner.
That's awesome.
And so we're celebrating the entire month of July, actually. And Your Business, Your Brand Creatively is actually my third company. I started, first of all, I was originally a teacher and a college professor. I knew in second grade I wanted to be an English teacher. And so I did that for quite a while. And then I left teaching and went into sales leadership and management. I had clients all over the country, corporate sales, consultative sales, all of that. And then, and that was during the period where there was a lot of downsizing. I don't know if people remember that.
Yeah.
But every time you turned around, the companies were downsizing and merging. And I was downsized 4 times in 6 years. That was not fun. And so in June of 2008, 10 years ago, I decided I never wanted to work for anybody again, ever again. Mm-hmm. So I put my 2 skill sets and experience out of education and sales together and started my first company, Writing It Right for You, which was a writing and editing company. And then 4 years later, in 2012, because so many of my clients asked us to edit their manuscripts and they didn't know what to do with those edited manuscripts after that, I started my second company, Detroit Ink Publishing, which is an independent publishing house. And I work with writers who want to be published authors. And then because I ran into so many people who were creative people, they were writers, musicians, artists, graphic designers, things like that. And they were great at the art part, but they weren't so great about the business part. Mm-hmm. And so 2 years after that, in 2014, I started Your Business, Your Brand Creatively. And so that is my umbrella company. I do most of the things that I do under, and we abbreviate it YB2C. And then 2 years after that, in 2016, I started a podcast, YB2C Live, Podcast for Entrepreneurs. So that's what I do.
Oh, just that? That's it?
That's it.
You are one busy lady. Goodness.
Yes, I am. And I love all of it. All of it.
It makes me feel good because I'm not alone. I feel like I'm always doing 1,000 things. So it's nice to talk to someone else who's multi-passionate too, because sometimes I feel very overcommitted.
Right. Exactly.
So take me back to that moment when you said, okay, I'm done working for other people. What was that breaking point? What did that look like?
Well, the breaking point was because actually a couple of years before that, I went back to teaching just for a little while because we needed to get a second mortgage on the house. And my husband was also self-employed. And to get that second mortgage, somebody needed to have a real job.
Yeah.
So after we got the second mortgage on the house, I quit teaching again. And I was kind of looking around for different jobs and things like that. And in the winter and spring of 2008, I was applying everywhere. Now, remember, I had been working for decades by this time. And very few people even called me in for an interview. And one company that called me in for an interview offered some kind of sales job, offered me $21,000 base salary. Oh, I said, that's what I pay my housekeeper. Not to mention the young lady who was calling me in for the interview was younger than all three of my children. I said, okay, that is it. That is it. And at the time, my daughter, who is a writer and a publisher, she had a consulting company where she worked specifically with writers on editing and things like that. And she said, Mom, you can do this. And so in May of 2008, we were at Purdue. My nephew was graduating from Purdue. The whole family was there. And my daughter and I literally sat on the bed in the hotel room and decided this was what I was going to do. And I had no idea, how to go about it. So that was May 2008. In June 2008, I sat in front of the computer the entire month teaching myself how to go into business. Because being a writer and having a writing business are two different things.
Yes, they are.
I taught myself how to go into business. I went to every website I could find. I made my own poor little looking, you can imagine what websites looked like 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I made my own little static one-page website. And at the time, our kids were grown. My husband at that time had a great job. So we could afford for me not to make any income for a few months. And so I told him, I promised him, I said, if you will support me, I promise you, I'll be bringing in $4,000 a month minimum within 6 months. Well, I did it in 3 months because of my sales background. And so I started, like I said, I opened up my doors in July of 2008. And 3 months later, I got my first international client in September of 2008. Next thing I know, I'm a global enterprise.
Wow.
And it just grew from there.
That's amazing. So what gave you the courage to really take that leap?
It was courage. Well, for one thing, a lot of people in my family are now entrepreneurs. So I had role models, number one. Number two, there's nothing worse than having your career at the mercy of some big nameless company.
Yeah.
Because, you go to work and then all of a sudden you're downsized. You had no notice, no nothing. And the worst thing that happened to me, I was working for one of those large computer companies with sales. And there were 3 people in our department, me and 2 men. And our territory was the city of Detroit. We were supposed to sell computer systems. Well, we all had a $3 million a year quota. But the 2 men, not only were they given a $10,000 base salary, $10,000 more than my base salary, and we were supposed to all be equal. But then also the men were given departments in the city, like the fire department, the police department. You know how many computers a police department buys?
Yeah.
And they gave me these little teensy-weensy departments who bought, like $5,000 at a time. You know how hard it is to get to $3 million, $5,000 at a time.
Yeah, for real.
Meanwhile, the police and fire, they bought computers $1 million at a time. So I just kept working hard and all that. But what happened? I went to work in November, and by the afternoon, I had been fired because I wasn't making quota. And on top of that, because the way the city works, I worked all year for these contracts, but the city council did not approve the contracts. They approved them all at once in December. I was fired 3 weeks before the city council voted on my contracts, and I lost $16,000 in commission because I was not working for the company at the time the city council voted in my contracts. That was it.
Yeah, I think I would have left too, Yeah,
that's when I decided there's got to be a better way out there. And if I'm going to work so hard, I might as well work hard for myself. And so that was the impetus that got me going and thinking about it. And then I just decided this was the time to do it. It didn't even occur to me that we were right in the middle of the Great Recession. I just knew that this was the time for me to just put everything. I had a lot of skill sets. I had a lot of experience and all different kinds of things. My English is perfect. And so that's when I decided that writing and editing business would be the one for me.
That's amazing. But I think there's a lot of us with that story because while you were in like a career, then I was just starting my journey as I had just graduated from college. So I was in the opposite place, except I couldn't find any job because no one wanted to hire anybody straight out of college.
Right.
Yeah, I think necessity is the mother of invention for most of us because we took that struggle of not being able to get a job or not being able to keep a job or whatever during that time period and created great things out of it. So I hope
Right,
that
exactly.
continues to be the case for all of us. Because now I feel like everybody and their dog is a coach or a consultant or whatever. And back in the day, back in like 2010 and for you back in 2008, nobody else was doing this. And now everybody's doing it.
Exactly. And for many reasons, a lot of reasons, excuse me, like you say, people just aren't hiring, or they aren't hiring at the level that people who are just graduating from college, they have all this education, they have all these college loans, at the rate where these former students feel that they can make it. And it's just much more difficult these days to find something that matches your skill set, your values, and your vision for your life. And so if you can't find someone else to help you do that, then you might as well do it for yourself.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been doing digital marketing now for 8 years, 6 years on my own. And I've been headhunted on LinkedIn by local companies and companies in my state. And so I'm never actually serious about taking them up on it, but I kind of want to know like their salary.
Right.
So I'll say, hey, okay, what would the salary and hours be like for this? Their salaries are laughable. For someone with almost 10 years experience, why the hell would you pay somebody $25,000 to $30,000 a year? That is crazy.
It is it is crazy. And not only are the salaries laughable, but the work conditions are often laughable.
Yes.
And now I've been on my own for so long, just the thought of having to be somewhere at a specific time and stays there for a specific number of hours makes my head explode.
Exactly. And I don't want to have to be like, well, let me ask off for this 1 week of vacation.
Right.
Or what if, a family member is sick and you need to stay in their hospital room for days? I mean, that's part of the reason my job before I started working for myself, they didn't fire me, but part of the reason I left is they gave me grief for leaving for a week for my grandmother's funeral.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What? Like, yeah.
I can believe me, I can fully understand that. And it wasn't funny at the time, but at the time I started my company, my first company in 2008. Like I said, my husband had a great job with the county. He was making a great salary and full benefits and all of that. And almost exactly 3 years later, he went to work at 8:30 in the morning on a Monday and was home at 8:45. He had been downsized.
Oh my goodness.
And so it was up to me to support both of us until he got another real job 5 years later. And so I tell people that because when you are making a freelance business for yourself, you have to realize, is this going to be something I just do in my spare time? Is this something going to be a hobby? Is this going to be part-time, or am I going to support myself and my family and build something with my business? And you have to make that decision either right at the beginning or move into that decision. If you want to do it, quite part-time and that's okay. But if you want to really, really have this to be your one and only your primary income to support yourself and your family, then you have to approach it like that and approach it like a business.
Yeah. And I definitely think you need to have the right mindset about it too.
Exactly.
Because I know a lot of people I've talked to, they already have beat themselves up about it. They're already like, well, I'm not going to succeed. This is too difficult. And if you go into it with that kind of thought pattern, of course you're not going to succeed, because you're not going to feel like you're good at what you do or you're worthy of success.
Exactly. And a lot of people say, well, have a plan B. I'm just the opposite. No. I didn't have a plan B because if I had a plan B, I wouldn't work so hard on plan A.
Exactly.
Now, technically, of course, I could always go out and get a job. It wouldn't pay as well, but I could get a job. I could, they're always looking for teachers. Teachers they have such low salaries and hard working conditions these days. But if push came to shove, I could get a teaching job tomorrow. Yeah. But I don't want to do that. I've been there, done that. And so always concentrating on my plan A, without worrying about plan B. What if I fail? I just don't give myself permission to fail, which doesn't mean there aren't hard times and ups and downs, because there certainly are. But like you said, there's hard times when you have a job too. So
Exactly. So speaking of those hard times, what do you feel like has been your biggest challenge and the hardest thing you've had to go through as you've grown these businesses?
Well, the everyday challenge is keeping your sales funnel full and managing the projects and making sure that you make the income on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis that you set for yourself. But the worst thing that happened to me was last year in 2017. I had a client. We'd been working together since December of 2010. And we never met. He lived in Pasadena, California, but we worked together really, really well. We became good friends, and we worked on various projects building up to his dream project of bringing a board game about entrepreneurship, bringing that board game to market. And in November of 2015, he said, "I'm ready for the big project." And we negotiated and talked about it for 6 months. And finally, in July of 2016, we started. It was going to be an 18-month, $75,000 project.
Wow.
The money wasn't a problem for him. We should all have clients for whom money wasn't a problem.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So the first part of the project was July 2016 through December 2016, and he wanted me to ghostwrite a book about and I, because I had worked with him on various parts of this project before, building up to this, it was a matter of pulling everything together and get everything started for his website and researching the bringing the product to market and all of that. So he paid me the first $25,000 from July through December of 2016. And he told me then, "I'm having some health challenges." And I said, "Okay," but like I said, we've been working together for 6 years. And so in January 2017, when it was time for the second portion of the project from January to June, he said, "Okay, let's just keep on going. I have a few health challenges. I'll get back to you." I wasn't really worried because he always paid me. It might have been a week late, but he always paid me no problem. January went by. He said, don't worry. Everything's okay." February went by, and I didn't hear from him. And then I was starting to get worried. And then on March 1st of 2017, I found out he died. He had cancer, and I don't even think he knew he was as sick as he was. And I certainly didn't know he was that sick. And so not only did I lose a dear friend, a client of more than 6 years, but I also lost what I had projected to be $50,000 in income for the year. Without notice, just all of a sudden. And so that was quite difficult to get through. It was quite difficult to get through. For those reasons, he was, not only a client, not only half my income for the year, but also a dear friend. So
that's awful.
Yeah, that was the worst thing that happened to me over the 10 years, and that happened last year. And it took quite a while for me to regroup from that.
What lesson did you learn from those challenges then? So what kind of, yeah.
The lessons that I learned was just to keep on going. And because it was such a big project, I didn't leave room for too many other projects. I knew how long it would take me to do this. So I had to go back and revamp my marketing, even though I always market. I don't like to overcommit myself. And this was a huge project. And so I had to revamp my marketing. And sometimes, and this happens in life, but it also happens in your business, it seemed like after he died, it seemed like nobody wanted to start with me. I mean, I put out proposal after proposal, talk to people. It seemed like I think between March of 2017 and August, I think I got one relatively medium-sized project that entire time. It seemed like nobody was going to work with me after all this time. And I really thought maybe I should just close down. But then I didn't. And once I changed my mindset, and there was something else that went on that summer, but I don't really want to get into that. But it did negatively affect my business. But then I decided, okay, I am not going to quit. I am going to keep on going. And in September 2017, I had to redo all my websites. And it was a big deal. But then what happened is that also in September and October of 2017, all of a sudden I started getting new clients again, and clients with big projects. And the two biggest projects I got, one in September and one in October. The first one in September was because of a workshop that I did for a writers group almost 18 months previous. This gentleman was in the audience when I did this workshop about how to write and publish your book. I don't remember him being in the audience. There were probably 30 or 40 people there at this workshop. But he contacted me, and he had 6 books he wanted to publish.
Oh, wow.
So we're on number 4 now. And then in October of 2017, I was referred to, because I always, have my elevator speech ready. You never know who's watching you or who is listening to you. I was referred to another writer by someone who heard me with my elevator speech, and she referred me to do this big book that for publishing. So those 2 big clients, then all of a sudden the ball started rolling again. And so it's been great. It's been great.
And you think it's all attributed to you just not giving up and changing your mindset around that?
Changing my mindset when you just, because what you put, and I learned this a long time ago when I was in sales, what you think about, you bring about.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start thinking, okay, I am going to succeed, I'm not going to fail, then that gives you the impetus to say, okay, what do I need to put in place? What do I need to add? What do I need to subtract? What do I need to change? And then on the outside, you never, and this, that you've heard this phrase from decades ago, never let them see you sweat.
Yep.
So nobody knew that I was going through all of these issues with my business. To them, oh, you do all this stuff and you have all these companies? Great, let me refer you some business. But when I close the door, oh my God, am I going to make it till tomorrow?
Yeah, it really is all in who you know and the mindset you have around yourself and your business.
Exactly. And then never, ever stop marketing. Never, ever stop marketing.
That is the problem I see, since marketing is my thing. Some clients will come to me and they'll say, okay, we want to pause because we want to take a break with our marketing. And I'm like, what? That's how you get more customers. What?
Exactly.
Why would you stop?
Exactly. And I get the majority of my clients. Well, let me put it this way. I don't do any advertising. I do my marketing through social media, through networking, and then I get a lot of my clients through referrals and repeat business. So someone asked me yesterday, do you do Google ads? No, I have no need to do Google ads yet. I have enough business just from the marketing that I do myself.
Well,
and I tell my clients, I said, because I have a lot of clients, well, I'm going to go to this bidding site, one of these bidding sites where they pay you, really, really basement rates, and half the jobs aren't even worth your time. I said, why don't you spend that time marketing yourself? Rather than going to these low-cost bidding sites. And I tell my clients, I said, you have to market yourself on your value. You will never, ever win on price. There will always be somebody cheaper. So what do you bring to the table that will solve the problem or the challenge or the issue of your potential client? And you market yourself that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap up, what would one piece of advice that you would have for a woman listening who maybe wants to start her own business or has just gotten started? What advice would you give her?
My number one piece of advice would be to sit down and plan out everything. Plan out everything from your finances to your marketing to your ideal client. Before you even really hang out your shingle, get all those kinds of things planned out. If you are, if this is going to be your primary only form of income, make sure that you have savings, because it does take 3 to 6 months, sometimes up to a year, to become really profitable. Mm-hmm. And like I said, when I started, I had my husband's income to keep us going. But because I had that, and because I laid out everything that entire month, I didn't move from my computer the entire month of June, and I planned out everything for the next year. Because it's hard to go by the seat of your pants. And when you have a plan to work from, so that would be my number one, make a plan. And if you're already in business, take a couple of days, and it does take a couple of days, to stop everything and renew and review your plan. And and go back and work your plan. Get all your systems in place, get all your finances in place, get all your goals in place, and then keep going, or then start.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's amazing advice. And it's so true. I think that's one of the key things that people forget is that you need to be organized and you need to have a plan in place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, because people ask me, well, I have 2 assistants now, and that, that really helps me to deal with everything. But I also have my systems in place. I know which apps to use. I talked to somebody yesterday, and she said, well, I can't send you this document until I get home because it's on my home computer. I said, well, one of the things we're going to work on is how you can have everything available at all times.
Yep.
Because you should be able to send me that file from your phone. And she said, yeah, I want you to help me with that. So it doesn't matter where I am, whether I'm here, whether I'm overseas, I can find anything at any time.
Yep, exactly. Well, this has been so much fun, Pamela. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so let everybody know where they can find you online if they want to work with you.
Okay, that would be great. The website is YB2CSystem.com. YB2CSystem.com is my consulting company and with branding and marketing. And Detroit Inc. DetroitIncPublishing.com is my publishing company.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again, and I hope all of you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me for the Biz Babes with Soul podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. To learn more about me, Melody Spencer, and the show, please visit swiftlysocial.com.